Live from the Injured on the Go Just Call Mo studio.
It's a blast!
It's Orlando's own Tom and Dan.
Welcome to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We are live on Twitch and YouTube. We would ask you to join us. Just search for @TomandDanLive.
So he's going to be at the Funny Bone on Thursday, February 20th, and he's also going to be at Porky's Comedy Club at St. Cloud, February 21st and 22nd. He's going to be down in Sarasota, February 28th and March 1st at McCurdy's, and legendary comedian Yakov Smirnoff is on Zoom right now. How you doing, Yakov?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh man, thank you so much for the time. We really do appreciate it, and appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to chat with us a little bit. We have a little bit of history. Like, your name has been thrown around in our studio probably more than most legendary comedians. And I'll defer to I'll defer to Tom, because we do have a bit of a mystery we'd like to try and solve.
Yeah.
Okay.
And real quick, before we solve the mystery, and this kind of ties into it, you have one of the greatest American dream stories, I feel like, of any entertainer. And the fact that you came here in 1977, you didn't speak English. And
right.
Less than 10 years later, you're one of the most famous comedians in America. And is it correct that you've performed for 4 different presidents?
That's correct. Yes. I've been very fortunate, but I thought that was just something every comedian does. So, yeah, I was, honestly, when I look back at my life, I'm like going, was it me or was it Memorex? Because it just all started happening. I think I was kind of like fresh meat in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had all these movie roles and television, and then invitation to the White House. And I thought it was all normal. And I thought every immigrant gets that kind of opportunity.
That's crazy. Like, you're like, this must be what being a comedian's like.
Yeah, and I can remember as a
That's
young...
why I was saying, what a country, right?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't believe this was happening, but it was happening. And I'm grateful.
It would seem like, too, we were seeing you, at least as a young man. My father and I, big fans of comedy, big fans of Robin Williams and watching the greats at that time. And you were rolling right up there with them. I can remember seeing you in commercials or guest starring in movies and stuff like that. I mean, did it seem for you literally like a 0 to 100 type of process, becoming?
It did. It still is. But I've been trying to figure out what happened, because as fast as it became that I became that kind of overnight success, which wasn't overnight, but that's the way people think.
Right.
But it ended even faster. It ended when the Soviet Union collapsed. And all of a sudden, I was no longer needed. It's like it was like Soviet Union was a pain in the butt to America, and I was preparation H.
Right, yeah.
Right, but when the itching and the burning and the swelling goes down, you don't need that anymore. So I basically was put in the medicine cabinet of history, and it was like so sudden. Soviet Union collapsed 91. David Letterman had a top 10 list of things that will now change. I made number 1 on the list. Yakov Smirnoff will be out of work. And I thought it was funny, but 6 months later, I wasn't laughing.
Wow.
I never thought, I would never thought about a comedian, especially, losing, well, not losing, but maybe having to reinvent or take a turn in his act or his entertainment because of geopolitics. Yeah, that's, I've never thought about that. That is. So how did you formulate a plan? Because obviously one of the things that I'm most impressed with, and Tom and I talked about this, is the fact that you own a venue. I mean, like, that's insane. Like, what?
I own a big 2,000-seat theater in Branson, Missouri for the last 32 years.
Wow.
So the logic was very much survival. My wife and I at that time bought a house in Pacific Palisades that now burned down. But
wow.
And I was doing so well. I was making, the house was $2.5 million. My mortgage was like $8,000 a month. At those days, it was 91 about. And then all of a sudden, my income went to nothing and no way to pay for mortgage. So it was dramatic. But I started looking for a place where they did not know that the Soviet Union collapsed. And I ended up in Branson, Missouri. They still don't know.
They're still calling it the USSR.
That's such a great.
I'm not about to tell them, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a blessing in disguise because it gave me an opportunity to keep entertaining. I entertained over 6 million people over those years. So it's been a blessing that happened at that time. It didn't look like it.
That is crazy. That
it's a beautiful theater, by the way, and congratulations. Didn't you just celebrate like your
31st consecutive season at your theater?
Yeah, congratulations. That is such a huge thing to do. And like, we are independent media. We know what it's like to have to leave and do, like, you're doing your own thing. You're owning it. It's your theater. I don't know. There's something insanely cool about that. And you could, like, people can rent your theater, right? And do other events and things there.
Correct.
That's wild.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's wild. That's really.
Yeah, this happened because survival. It had to be a survival mode. That to happen.
Sure.
And but here's an interesting thing that you might appreciate, that because I went and I got my master's degree in psychology at University of Pennsylvania, and then I got my doctorate degree at Pepperdine University. The reason I was going after those, because I was trying to figure out because I believe that when there's chemistry and when there's harmony, laughter is kind of a result of that. It happens after the needs are met. So when I look at the big picture, and I'm realizing that I was meeting America's need for a release of that pain in the butt, or release of that tension.
Yeah.
And because I was meeting that need, that's why my career skyrocketed. And then when the need was over and they didn't need that anymore, it went away. So I believe that when I came to Branson, I happened to meet the needs of that community because they were looking for wholesome, they weren't looking, I just showed up, but a patriotic, what a country, somebody who likes America, somebody, so you could bring the kids to my show, and the grandparents are not going to be embarrassed, and things like that. I met their need. That's what helped me to survive this, not only survive and thrive through this 32 years.
Well, Yakov, you bring up a point about you've always worked clean, and in doing some research, I saw that you are at one time roommates with Andrew Dice Clay and Biff from Back to the Future.
Yeah, and we've interviewed
Thomas Wilson.
Yeah, we've talked to both of those guys.
And so I'm like, and Andrew Dice Clay was the epitome of a dirty comic, especially at the time in the 80s.
He's still doing it on Kill Tony.
Yeah.
Andrew was teaching me English, so be nice to him.
No, we love it. Yeah.
But so you're working clean. He's Andrew Dice Clay. Like your philosophy of comedy couldn't be different. And so how was that relationship?
Well, actually, we're still friends. I was supposed to be a part of his documentary. Actually, today I was supposed to be coming back to Orlando, but there was a snowstorm, so we postponed it. So I continued to have a relationship with him because when I met Andrew, he was totally clean. I know it's hard to believe, but he was doing impressions of John Travolta, Sylvester Stallone. He would close his act singing like Elvis, an impression. I mean, it was very, very clean. What happened is that when HBO, at that time, to be a success, before the cable came in, you had to be clean. And he was. But then when HBO gave that young comedian special happened, and they liked his nursery rhymes, and all of that just went through the roof. And then after that, he never turned back.
Super interesting.
He saw something that worked.
Yeah.
There's no need there. Yeah.
And was there any pressure for you to ever work dirty at all? Did the other comedians are like, hey, Yakov, you got to work.
You need to be a spicier Russian,
No. I always admired like Seinfeld and Leno. I saw, and it was kind of similar to what I grew up with because I was doing stand-up in the Soviet Union, and obviously you could not the amount of topics that you could talk about was very limited, and therefore dirty was not even an option.
Right. Yeah.
And so I kind of been trained to stay, not to go against the party line. Otherwise, you can get hurt. You can disappear.
Right.
So those were the parameters that I grew up with. So it wasn't difficult for me to say no to drug use, to any of that seemed very foreign to me.
That's crazy that you're doing comedy in a country that you could be imprisoned, and also just you never been seen again for something you say on stage.
Did you carry any of that maybe nervousness over when you first started? You're learning English.
Yeah.
You start doing comedy here in the States. How do you learn where the line is in a new country?
You create your own line in a way. And I remember watching. My English was still pretty bad, but I could understand some. And I remember being in New York at it was Playboy Club, and there was comedy on a regular basis there. And the comedian, I don't know who it was, said that Jimmy Carter just had his hemorrhoid operation, and he's going to be perfect a-hole again. And I ducked under the table.
Right. You're like,
You're like, oh my God! You called.
Somebody's gonna shoot him.
Yeah.
That's how ingrained it was in my mind.
Sure.
You're like how could you say this about the president? Like you're gonna like someone.
Right.
I mean, a lot.
Crazy.
Like we really do take for granted the fact that is a freedom afforded to us. Like the ability to
love
work,
making fun of the president.
Like we make fun of our presidents. We worship any religion we want, and that is something that we don't think about. That there are countries that is not a thing.
That's a blessing. Yes,
it is absolutely.
So Yakov, we have to ask you this because one of my favorite stories ever told told on the show was by fellow comedian, the amazing Jonathan.
Yeah. All the way back in 2014.
And when he came on the show, he told us a story, and you want to? We got a little bit of the audio from it.
It's a small clip, Yakov. If you just listen to this,
Go
I made it.
for it. Yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah.
This is 40 seconds. Here we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
President Reagan and President Mitterrand of France.
Oh my God.
They wanted to see a show. It was. I get a call from at my hotel room out of the blue. It's from the Secret Service saying, "Would you like to do a show for the President of the United States?" So I flew at my own expense to New York. Was standing at 58th and Broadway at 6 a.m. Seinfeld's there. Yakov Smirnoff's there. They both got the same call apparently.
No,
That's insane.
They're on the corner, just
Yeah,
standing
they're
there.
standing at the corner. A black van comes around the corner. It opens its doors, and the guy says, "Get in."
Now, what year was this?
This was 1986.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was the bicentennial of the Statue of Liberty ceremony, is what it was.
Oh yeah. Yes, that makes sense because yes, I remember that very clearly. I was sworn in at the Statue of Liberty ceremonies as an American citizen. So I was part of all of these activities and festivities that was happening there. So yes, he is correct. And we had Amazing Jonathan and I and Jerry had the same agents at that time. So that's how we probably ended up in the same spot.
Well, the amazing Jonathan went on to say it was his first time trying ecstasy, and he was freaking out the entire time.
No, but then he also goes on to say that his stage manager tested out his prop gun that had blanks in it, and he fired the gun, and he got tackled. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Amazing Jonathan was
It
crazy.
sounds like Amazing Jonathan story. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't see that part, but I had an interesting situation because I was sworn in on that day at the Statue of Liberty. It was a big moment of my life,
Sure. Yeah.
one of the biggest. And I remember Baryshnikov. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be sworn in at the same day or the same ceremony. So he was like a really big, everybody, all the media was on him. They wanted to get an interview from him, all of that. And we were all gathered there, and Baryshnikov came and told the media, or FBI actually was around him because he was like the center of attention of the whole event. So they were around him, and they came to Battery Park where we were waiting, and he said they said that he's not going to give any interviews. And up till then, the media, they've seen me, they saw me that I was there, but they totally ignored me. Totally. And when the FBI said that he's not going to do this, all of the media, I'm talking about, Time Magazine, Newsweek, LA Times, USA Today, all of the biggers, they turn around on the dot like piranhas. And all of a sudden, I was the bait. I was the one that they're going to write a story about. And it never happened in my life before. It will probably never happen again. And I had no PR person there or anybody. So I'm telling the people from Newsweek, or I say, stand in this corner. I'll come back to you in 20 minutes. And who are you with? Oh, you're with Time Magazine. Well, let me talk to you now. But People Magazine, would you stand there and wait for me? It was insane. And that's when I think that was the peak of my career, because I made the cover of Parade magazine that week. And so
now wasn't Parade the magazine that came with the paper, so it went to every house. Like I remember as a boy, you'd get the paper and then the magazine that came with it, the color fold out, the money shot was Yakov on Parade.
That's correct.
That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
I don't think there was something bigger when I was born in 76. I'm 48. Like I can remember, you exploded in a point where you were just everywhere. It was just you in a red sweater everywhere.
It must have been the equivalent to $500 million worth of media exposure or something insane, like bigger than the. I mean, with that much media at that time, where there was no internet, pre-cable TV, this is what Americans consumed.
I'm very grateful to a Russian ballet dancer.
I think
He's one of the greats.
That one decision of him not talking to the media blew your career.
He had a bad day. He was like, "I'm over this. I do not want to talk."
So, Yakov, speaking of President Reagan, you also got to write a little bit of President Reagan's speech, which is also insane.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to believe that was all happening. And it was, the owner of the comedy store, Mitzi Shore, she kept saying to me, "You and Reagan changed the world." And I'm like going, "Come on, Mitzi, I'm just a comedian. I just tell jokes." And he's, no, this was secret weapons that Reagan used to make it connect to Gorbachev, and that's how everything happened. So I couldn't. Again, I'm not dumb, but I feel like it was so way over my head when they asked me to write some jokes for the speech, and then they said, "Why don't you read the speech and see if you like it?" And I'm like, who am I? But then I would give them my opinion, say the tone of the speech is probably not ideal. And they go, "Why don't you rewrite it?" I go, "Oh, no, now if that doesn't work, I don't have any countries to go to."
That's crazy.
Yeah, see you in space, Yakov.
That's crazy.
I don't know where you go after that. Also, do you remember what, the tone was? Was it something just, like, were you trying to soften it in any way?
Yeah. I think it's similar to what's going on right now with today's situation with Trump and European Union and Ukraine and Putin and all of those things. Their kind of history is repeating itself. So the tone of collaboration is what I believed in, and that's what was lacking, because people who were writing the speeches were more hardcore and pushing for, like, we're the pinnacle of the world. We will dictate what's going to happen.
Right.
And my take on it was, I don't think so. I think it will need to be mutually beneficial. So that's the only difference.
That makes sense, yeah.
It's like Tony Robbins talks about this, like when you're learning to play golf and you make 1 degree adjustment to where the ball is going to go, it might go to the green or it might go in the woods. So I guess my 1 degree was received by president's writers, and they used that. So, and I think that helped.
That's amazing.
So Yakov, I'm curious about, you mentioned getting your master's in psychology and then your doctorate, and was that anyway fueled by the curiosity, like especially psychology, of what happened in your own career? Like we just talked about the explosion in popularity and going from, I know it wasn't overnight, but, in the amount of time from coming to America, not knowing English, and to, you're writing Ronald Reagan's speeches now, and then the insane popularity and everybody in the country knows who you are, and then the fall of the Soviet Union, and then all of a sudden everything gets taken away as far as like career-wise, and you open up your theater and you've had a great career and it's amazing, but like you looking back, you're like it's a crazy rise and immediate, not even a fall, but like the change in your career and like
Emergency landing, I call it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yes.
is part of your fascination with psychology like part of trying to understand like why that happened to you?
Right.
Yeah, in some ways, I wasn't looking at that as much as after all of this started happening. A little bit late, I went through a divorce, and that's probably was the catalyst to going to get my education because I couldn't understand it. But however, I noticed that there was a lot of laughter in the beginning of the relationship, and then by the end of the relationship, there was people who were laughing were the attorneys, and so I kind of went, where did the laughter go? So it was more started there to understand it was laughter between my wife and I, and then it's going away. And then I started asking my audience, how many of you remember laughter in the beginning of the relationship? And everybody applauds. And then I say, any of you would go on a second date if you didn't have laughter on the first date? And nobody applauds. So that gave me an idea that there is a correlation between laughter and happiness, and laughter being that gauge or that map or roadmap of happiness. And then, as I was doing that research on the personal relationships, I realized that it actually reaches everyone. I mean, all relationships with your children, with your parents, with your coworkers. If you are not meeting each other's needs, laughter is not going to happen.
So,
Yeah, that's true.
So Yakov,
Conditions are not optimum for that, for sure.
And you even taught a class about like laughter and business, correct?
Yes, business of laughter. Yes.
And-
I was teaching students how that's all relatable to. And if you want to have a good relationship, you focus not on laughter, you focus on meeting the needs. And once you meet the need, humor is going to be there. It's going to trigger the laughter.
That's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
are you still writing your book, Unconscious Attraction?
I have done it. I did a proposal, but unfortunately, well, again, I look at everything as a blessing.
Yeah.
It wasn't getting any traction with the publishers. That tells me it's like a clue that maybe that's not where I need to go.
Gotcha.
And so it happened about a year ago, February. So, it just reminded me. Today's what, the 18th?
Yeah.
I think it was February 10 last year that I had there's a psychologist that I admire, and I like the way he was deep dive, trying to understand what is your passion, where is your passion. And we did a session together, and my goal was to continue to go into psychology more deeper, and do the books and do courses and all of that. And then we kind of dove in, or he helped me see that I was split between stand-up and psychology. And for years, I tried to join them together. And it was difficult. I did a Broadway show, 2003,
Yeah.
As Long as We Shall Laugh. And I thought that will be, and then I did a PBS special, Happily Ever Laughter, in 2016. So I've been on that path for a long time. But that session helped me understand that my strength is in stand up. And so what's happening, the reason I'm here in Orlando and then at Porky's in St. Cloud, it makes me smile because I'm going from the White House to Porky's.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it.
There's a contrast there, right?
Yeah, I love it. And it's also very American, though. I mean, like barbecue is very American. It's my favorite food. Porky's actually does have good barbecue, so I'm glad about that.
That's why I'm telling everybody. I'm like, you have a chance
to meet a legend. Yeah,
we have a lot of listeners around St. Cloud, Kissimmee area, Orlando. Like, go see Yakov.
And a lot of people in the chat room. I'll read some of it.
Yeah.
This is so great. Yakov seems so nice. This is a very smart man. We need him to save us again. Like, these are people, like, this is a killer interview. Yeah, you can actually go and eat barbecue, America's food, with Yakov Smirnoff at Porky's.
Yes. So the reason I'm doing these clubs, and Florida is the first place that I'm kind of coming out of that Branson bubble, is to test this that new approach to my stand-up, and hopefully my guiding light at this point is Nate Bargatze.
Oh yeah,
who I think is has his pulse on what America needs. Again, I'm going back to need, and what America needs. I think they got enough of the comedy that was vulgar, and they can't watch Netflix without with their kids or grandkids. So they are flocking to Nate and people like that, Leanne Morgan and Jerry Seinfeld. I mean, they really want that in their lives now.
You know what's interesting is we had Nate on the show when he was just doing the comedy club circuit.
2017.
And it was funny because we literally, it kind of like in an analogy to you, you, Yakov, and the fact that he, like, all of a sudden he came to Orlando once.
We had him in here.
And then the next time he came, he's doing arena. You know, he's going from comedy club, he's going Porky's to arena.
He did, yeah.
I've never
seen Porky's
it.
to like the Kia Center here in town, and he did like multiple dates.
And I've never seen someone skyrocket that fast. And you're right, it must have been just like what you were talking about in your own careers. Like, America needed this particular style of comedy at the right place, the right time. Now, hopefully, like, something doesn't happen where he all of a sudden the late night show is like Nate Bargatze's was never going to do a show.
Yeah. He makes the number one of the top 5.
But it's interesting you bring him up.
Yeah, no, I think he is safe because he did not. His motto: no politics, no profanity. So he is. When I actually watched last night a couple of his specials on Netflix, and it's just fascinating to watch him, how great he is in what he does, but he's also very strategic, that there is no reason that he would not be popular.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Yakov, I have 2 more questions real quick. One is your podcast, Comedy Couch.
Yes.
How's that going?
It's going okay. As you know, this kind of format needs to grow and see. I like doing it. That's the biggest part of it, that I can sit down with young comedians or, comedians who've been touring for a while, and they have a lot of respect for me, which feels good to be able to. And so what I realized, that I've been kind of under witness protection program for 32 years. And when you go to Branson, America doesn't know where you are. You're done. So it's a good place to hide from the Russians that are still looking for me. And I don't want to mention their name, but the initials are KGB.
Well,
So what I'm saying is that I've been kind of protected by that environment, and now coming out into the real world, America, and all the changes that are happening in our political system, all of that requires just being out there and figuring out what is it that America need right now.
Well, Yakov, because of your education and your life experience, you make a great interviewer because I listened to the podcast and you're really good at interviewing because of your education psychology background.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, I'm looking for a sign, kind of like what I just did my last podcast with Adam Carolla,
Yeah.
who is like, one of the biggest podcasters in the world, and I was so a blast that he was like, "Yeah, sure, let's sit down. If you do my podcast, I'll do your podcast. So if you show me yours, I'll show you mine."
Yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah, and I was very pleased to be able to hold my part of the bargain, and he enjoyed the interview. So to me, it's just a slow building process. But I think, again, Nate has a successful podcast. So I'm using his roadmap in a way of what is he doing that got him from Porky's to Arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smart.
So I'd definitely listen to one day if you get Nate on your podcast.
Oh, I'd love that.
I would listen to that as fast as possible.
Or if the next time you're in Orlando, if you ever just want to pop in here again and talk some more, man, we'd love to chat with you. This has been like super fun.
I got one more question, and it's my dumbest question for you.
Yeah, we saved the best for the last.
This is the dumbest.
Best for last.
But I tried to look it up online and see, and I couldn't find anything, and I was like, and it was bothering me because I was like, there had to be some story about an interaction with this company. So your stage name, Smirnoff, it's famously you got it from the vodka from when you got to America. You're like, what America's like. It's a famous story that people know.
Officially a ChatGPT fact.
And that's correct, right?
Yes, that's correct. I was working as a bartender or bar boy at first, but then bartender, and people were not very familiar with the Russian things, except Smirnoff would always make them smile. So that's how I got this last name, and it's been very very good for me over the years, because there's just something funny about Yakov, like yakking, and then Smirnoff, so it gets people to smile. It kind of like Whoopi Goldberg, there is just that part of that cognizant difference. Like those words should not be together.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it stick. And so, I've been very blessed that I picked that name.
So my question is, did the actual Smirnoff vodka company ever reach out to you to do endorsements or work with you in some way?
They have, and I did a show for them. That was probably 1991, maybe. No. Yeah, 1991. And at that time, my kids were born, and I didn't feel like I wanted to be associated with alcohol.
Gotcha.
And so I turned it down. Now my kids are grown and drink Smirnoff. Maybe it's time to rekindle this.
It's time. It's right. It's never been. You know what? Seriously.
They
is time.
should.
Oh, they absolutely should.
A social media campation of you or Yakov Smirnoff drinking Smirnoff.
We might start like beating that drum for you.
That should be a Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah.
Right?
Smirnoff Ice might be right?
I
or-
love Smirnoff Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a delicious lemonade flavored malt liquor beverage.
But let me tell you what I think, that it's very sweet of you to say that. But until you're hot again, or warmed over, or whatever it is, big companies are not interested. Small companies are rarely interested. So to me, it's my job to start that fire, and that's what's happening tomorrow at Orlando Funny Bone, and then next day, Friday and Saturday, Porky's, and then in Sarasota. That's like kindlings for the fire.
Love it.
Well,
And that will start the fire. Then Smirnoff will be calling me.
no,
There you go.
100%.
Yeah,
and
that's the plan.
Yakov, we had a guest earlier. I'm like, Yakov Smirnoff is coming, zooming with us. They're like, oh, really?
freaked out, yeah.
Everybody that is over 40 knows your name. I think the majority of America, your name recognition is so high
still
because
powerful. Yeah.
of the 90s and the late 80s and 90s. So I just feel like, good luck with everything in your new tour, and
Well,
congratulations.
I'll tell you, my social media person said that most of the time in today's world, with the podcasts and all of those social media platforms, most of the time the children tell their parents about that particular performer or that particular podcast, similar to like Barron Trump is introducing Donald Trump to Joe Rogan and Theo Wan and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. My social media guy says this will be opposite for you. He said the parents are going to be introducing you to the young people.
Yeah, there you go. Let's work it backwards.
And I go, whichever way, I'm good.
Yeah. Just got to get the kindling, get the fire going.
That's a Russian reverse.
That is the Russian
you
reverse.
invented.
Yeah. I love it.
Right.
Yakov, thanks so much for taking the time with us. I really appreciate it. And again, get your tickets at Funny Bone Thursday, February 20th, and Porky's Comedy Club the 21st and 22nd. It's been a pleasure, Yakov, and we hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See
Have
ya.
a good one.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Why did I say see you guys?
It was all good until you said see you guys.
Until I got to the see you guys. Who else is there, Dan? Dan, who else is there? You dumb mother.
Well, you know what? Usually you end, and I think it threw you off that I ended.
It did
Yeah,
throw me
yeah,
off.
yeah,
No, you
because
know what
I-
threw me off is his noise that they always like, hey. The noise of that. I don't like a noise at the end.
Well, I think
I demand that anybody, when we are ending a Zoom call, I demand that everyone stay quiet.
I guarantee you now that he's touring again, he's gonna get tired of doing interviews.
Yeah.
But we're lucky we got him. He came
Yeah,
to
we got
Florida
him.
first.
We got him.
Yeah. But
Very nice man.
In 2 months, when he's doing like Arizona, he's like, I'm not doing any more media. But I
He'll
don't
do
need
a
it.
little bit of this. I'm tired.
Yeah.
He looks great, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude.
You know who I thought?
He's 74.
You know who I thought he was at first? I thought he was the husband of that Playboy lingerie model that you creeped out. He had the same hat on and the same beard, and I'm like, holy crap! Where's that lady?
Yeah. He needs to write a life biography.
Hey man, what you need to do is write yourself a life biography. You need to write you a life. You ever thought about writing yourself a life biography? Man, it's real popular for them celebrities. You write yourself one of them life biographies. You get that. I was cursed. You get that S published, you'll be rich, man. You'll be able to buy you an airboat.
You MFer.
Life biography.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.